Hi, this is Dr. Kit Bowerman, and we are glad here today to have a chance to talk with Dr. Stan Coe. Thank you for coming today and taking your time. Where did you go to veterinary school, and what year did you graduate?
Washington State University, and I graduated in 1957.
Okay. And
before you were born.
You're right. No, actually, a little bit. That's not quite true, but thank you. I appreciate that. And you are in small animal practice or were?
I was, yeah. I retired in 2001.
Okay. And what do you think has been your most interesting experience as a veterinarian?
Oh, there's so many. It's hard to put a fact. You think back over the years, all of the interesting clients that you had. I can remember one gentleman, I took care of his cat for years and years, and he was just a little bit, I don't know how you would describe it, but he imagined that his cat was a reincarnation of his late aunt, and she was his favorite relative, and he would come into the office with that cat and put the cat carrier down beside him, and he always wore an overcoat, and he would pull the overcoat over the cat carrier and sit there and carry on a conversation with this cat, thinking he was talking to his aunt. And other clients would come in, and here's this overcoat over this big lump with a conversation coming out from beneath it, and I'd always have to describe to the other clients what was going on.
Did that make it difficult for you to give his aunt an injection or anything
Yeah,
like that?
well, it was, and even when we had to hospitalize her, he would call up and have me put the phone in the cage beside the cat, and he would carry on a conversation over the phone, and I'd have to listen to see when the conversation stopped so I could take the phone out. But you see, all these different relationships with people and their pets.
That makes it fun, though, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
You never know what's coming through the door next.
That's right. What motivated you to select your path of practice, like small animal versus research or large animal?
Well, just I guess the opportunity. When we were getting ready to graduate, we were all wondering where we would go, and in those days they would have practitioners come over to the school and interview. I suppose they still do the same thing. But, Tom Guilfoyle came over, and he was actually looking to hire 2 veterinarians, one for his colleague Bob Birch, who practiced up the street from him, and Tom needed one himself, and so he interviewed me for the possibility of both jobs, and Bob, in his wisdom, passed on me and turned me over to Tom, and that's where I went and stayed at the same location from 1957 until 01.
Mm-hmm. So. The Elliott Bay Animal Hospital? No.
It was at that time Guilfoyle Animal Hospital.
Okay.
There was a remarkably small little number of veterinarians when I came to Seattle, and we would have our association meetings in the American Legion Hall in Magnolia, which is about the size of this room, and we had plenty of room for everybody, but it was a real close-knit little group of doctors, and everybody got along really well. And we'd have our elections and things like that. If you won the election, it was by 5 to 6, 6 to 5, or something like that.
That's good. So, what do you think is your fondest memory while you were practicing veterinary medicine?
Oh, again, you have so many. One of the things that I always remembered as the most rewarding thing that happened was after I've been running this clinic called the Donny Memorial Pet Clinic, and it's a charity thing for homeless and indigent people. And we had this young couple come in with a little pug that had been hit by a car. Mm-hmm. And they had no money. Their they were about to be evicted from the place that they rented, and their lights and phone were going to be shut off soon, and they just were really up against it. And they had this little kid who was about 5 years old who had accidentally opened the door, and the dog ran out and got hit, and of course he was just shattered by it. And I thought, the dog had its pelvis broken into about, I don't know how many pieces. And I thought, what are we going to, you know, we don't have the facility at the Donor Clinic to do any surgery or anything like that. So I called up our good friend E.B. Okrasinski, who was doing orthopedic work on a mobile type situation where you come to your practice and do the surgery. And it described to him the whole scenario, and E.B. said, well, you know, if you guys will, if the Donor Clinic, we operate with donated funds, and so we have to watch how we spend our money, but E.B. said, if you'll buy the plates and all of the equipment, I'll donate my service. And he patched that little dog back together.
Yeah, that's great.
We were able to hand it back to that little kid, able to walk again. And it's things like that that I guess reward all of us when we practice veterinary medicine.
How long has the Donor Clinic been in operation?
We're in our 25th year now.
Yeah. You get a lot more volunteers for that. Like, is it once a month or twice?
We do it twice a month, second and fourth Saturday, and we've had really good luck with. That's another thing that makes me proud of our profession, because when Bud Doney died, the clinic didn't have a name, and I saw in the paper where Nancy, his wife, said she was going to discontinue the clinic because she didn't have a veterinarian to run it anymore. And I called her up and took her to lunch and said, I'm sure with the number of veterinarians we've got, we can keep it going for you. So that's been 25 years ago, and it's still going strong, but we did name it in Bud's honor.
Right. Well, that's great. Do you, who's been your most significant mentor as a veterinarian?
Well, it's usually probably the guy I went to work for, Tom Guilfoyle. And another person that I really admired a whole lot, just from the fact that he was such a great human being, was Ernie Stone, who was the dean of our college at the time. And in my freshman year, I developed an illness, had to do with maintaining my balance, called Meniere's syndrome. A lot of my friends said they didn't see any difference, but I would periodically become so dizzy that I couldn't even maneuver or walk, and I fought it as long as I could, and I finally went in to Dean Stone, and I told him what was happening. And he said, well, what are you doing here? You should be home seeing your doctor and finding out what's wrong with you. And I said, but if I drop out, at that time they only took 50 students every year. If I drop out, then I'm through. He said, look, you go home and get well, and I'll save you a place in the next class. So I actually graduated in a class that would have been one ahead of me. So.
Wow,
But he was, he didn't have to do that.
No.
He could have said, well, that's a tough break, but he was such a great humanitarian, that he took it upon himself to let me back in.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Dr. Stone, because I was one of the last classes where he taught physiology and stuff, so I had an opportunity to meet and know him also. And you're right, he was just a very gentle man and really cared a lot about his students. Yeah.